Welcome back to the War and Peace Baseball Podcast. I'm Farban Makazi here with Alex Yuri
Hey, what's up?
and Alex Rudy.
What's up?
Not much happened this week, but we still have some stuff to talk about. Let's get right to it. James Shields, he finally signed a 4-year deal with $75 million to become the new ace of the San Diego Padres. The deal's 4 years, 75, as I stated, with an option for the 5th year. He has an opt-out clause in there. I don't know what year, but he does. What do you guys think of this?
We discussed it last week. It's exactly what we expected for the most part. So I say that's a win for us as the War and Peace Baseball Podcast. Yay.
War and Peace 1, MLB 0.
I think they've beat us a lot more though.
Not bad.
I mean, yeah, we hit it pretty hard last week. I like the deal. Yeah, I mean, it's a good deal. I like it for the Padres. I think we covered pretty thoroughly. So,
Yeah, I think it's gonna be more interesting to see how they rank up against the other NL West rotations now.
I think they'll be a team definitely in the wild card hunt, and not much more than that. It is a huge pickup for them.
I'm happy he signed.
Caps off an amazing, an outstanding offseason for the Padres.
Yes, AJ Preller is God. I'm happy he signed, but I think that team's gonna be a great team in the wild card chase. I still don't think there's any chance they're gonna win the division, but that team's gonna be in contention for the wild card. So that's a great sign.
Well, just in terms of their rotation, I want to ask, better or worse than the Dodgers?
I think any rotation with Clayton Kershaw and Zach Greinke is better than I mean, no offense to Shields and Cashner, but I think Kershaw and Greinke, I'd rather face Shields and Cashner in a playoff series than Kershaw and Greinke. So
yeah, that's fair enough, and that's pretty much expected. And also against the Giants rotation, how do they rank up? You think?
Ooh.
That's a bit tougher.
The Giants have Bumgarner, Hudson, Kane, Lincecum if he's back in that rotation. I feel like I'm missing someone.
They still have Vogelsong.
Petit.
If they want to use them there.
Padres are better.
Yeah, they have a pretty strong top 3 at that rotation.
Yeah, they have.
The Giants don't have. They have a very strong number 1 guy. But, you're not going to win.
And just remember this, Bumgarner is very strong in the playoffs. He's still, he's a solid starter during the season, but he's not his playoff type during the full 162 games.
Yeah, James Shields is going to have to face off against his rival from the World Series, in fact, in the same division. That'll be fun.
Yes, he will.
Anyway, looking forward to that division in the West. Even more so now that the Padres are a bit more relevant.
Very much so. That's gonna be a fun. I love how teams are getting better. Everything's getting more competitive. It's a lot more fun to watch.
Yeah, you don't have really those teams like the Astros were a few years ago, where
they were terrible.
You're just gonna win 50 games and roll over on your season or whatever.
Yeah, it's more fun for the casual fan too.
I agree. But as Rudy said, we did touch on it quite a bit in terms of the details of how much he deserves and the destination being the right choice for him. I think
he lives out there too.
Yep, I think
it's a very good sign. Yeah, basically.
Too bad we didn't get to it earlier. Signed one day after our last podcast was recorded.
God damn.
I think the same day it went up. So
he's so
it's
selfish.
just our luck.
So selfish.
I know. So anyway, I think that's going to do it for the Shields discussion. And we'll go ahead and move on to not another top story, considering the week has been very slow, but we'll go and move on to our top 5 at each position. I don't think we mentioned this earlier, but this is most likely going to be on the shorter side of a podcast, just based on the slow activity yet again. So we'll go ahead and jump in with your top 5, Farbode.
My top 5. My number 5. I'm gonna make my number 5 a little more bold, but I mean, I still think he's a great second baseman, but I don't I'm gonna put him at number 5, Howie Kendrick.
Mm.
Number 4, Brian Dozier.
Hello?
Okay.
Sorry.
We lost you there for a
Internet
second.
took a dump.
Okay.
Were we on?
We finished up our James Shields discussion while you were gone, actually.
That's fine.
Just very quick.
I have nothing really left to say, so.
Okay.
That's good.
Glad we're all on the same page. So we're going through Farbo's top 5 at second base list right now, in fact.
So my number 5 was Howie Kendrick. Number 4, Brian Dozier. Number 3, Dustin Pedroia. And number 2, I have Robbie Cano, even though he's on the rival team, the Seattle Mariners. And number 1, another rival team, Jose Altuve, because I love that he's 5'5" and he can destroy that ball.
Shall I go?
Yeah, go for it.
Where do you want to go?
I can go ahead and give my list if you'd like. Number 5, I have Chase Utley, still, even at his age, one of the top producers in the game in my opinion. Number 4, I have Brian Dozier, 2020 guy, spoke for himself last season, so I'll let that be. Number 3, I have Ian Kinsler, actually.
Wow.
Who has silently been one of the better second basemen in all of baseball.
More consistent.
Yeah, on both sides of the ball, defensively and offensively. He's got a little pop in that bat still in Detroit. And number 2, I've got Robinson Cano, former Yankee. As much as I love him, he did not put up the power numbers that I'd like to see from him.
Well, there's a difference in the short porch in New York than Seattle.
Right. I mean, I think it wasn't just that. I think his approach kind of
they had to change.
Changed as a whole. Yeah, it had to. He did what he had to do, and he's still a very nice producer in Seattle. Definitely, I have a feeling he's gonna live up to his contract at least for a little bit in Seattle there. And number 1, Jose Altuve, the man himself. I can't talk enough about him, so
Yes.
I have nothing more to say about that.
Alrighty.
I'm gonna go with. I'm surprised no one mentioned Anthony Rendon. Do we count him as a second baseman?
Okay. Yeah, that is an interesting. He did play some at second base. He was primarily a third baseman though last season, so I wouldn't.
His real position is second base. That's what he like.
But he ended off the season. He played a lot of the season at third base last year, so it's tricky there. He's definitely up there in my third base list when it comes to that, but I don't see him as a second baseman at all. But you can go and throw him in there. It's fine.
Okay. Number 5, I'm gonna go with Dustin Pedroia. He had an off year offensively last year for him, and he's really been injury prone the past 2 years. But I'm sure if he can get healthy for this season and stop going through nagging injuries, and just letting them start to maybe let them heal a little bit, he should go back to being a top 5 second baseman in the league. He's still an outstanding defender, and he's the only guy in this that we've mentioned who was an MVP. I just think I give him props and respect for that.
Yeah. So I also wanted to mention that the tidiness in the off performance he's had recently is the only reason he's not on my list. I love him as a player, and I think he'll bounce back just fine.
Number 4, I'm going to go with Brian Dozier. He's a really, really unique second baseman. Most second basemen are known for their average hitting, if anything, and they have any offensive production. And he's more of like almost want to say Johnny Peralta-esque type of hitter, prime Johnny Peralta, where he's just solid in every category. He's above average power for his position with a bit of a below average, but he just fills all those categories that you can need. He's fine defensively. He's just an excellent player. We have to go with Jose Altuve. I appreciate what you guys give him and the praise you guys gave him. And he is incredible offensively, but he's horrendous defensively. He's a negative defensive WAR, negative .1, which is atrocious and just god awful for a second baseman in my opinion. second base is a position where you need your best defenders on the field. And I'm not saying WAR is the best, is the only way to measure defensive statistics, but if you just go on Fangraphs, I mean, his UZR, his ultimate zone rating is terrible. I mean, his range is terrible. All his stats are like negative numbers or insanely low. He's just not a good defensive player in any measurement. I just can't make him a top two. If you're not at least average defensively, I can't make you a top two player at my position.
My heart is broken.
He's incredible offensively, and
I'm speechless.
He's a great player, but if you're not at least average defensively, I just can't make you a top two player. I mean, I think I had the same topic at first base when I didn't give Encarnacion and Jose Abreu quite the love that you guys did. Number two, I'm gonna have to go with Ian Kinsler, he's kind of a tank. He doesn't really the past couple 2 or 3 seasons he's barely been hurt, I feel like. I know at the last year at Texas he had a nagging injury a good portion of the year. But if you take his career as a whole, he's just always on the field, always playing, always putting up great numbers, always playing good defense. He's a really, really underrated player. And I just think any team would love to have him. He's a guy who's just the definition of consistency. And even though he's 33 years old, he's a good bet to have a 2020 year every year. Number one, the great Robbie Cano. His down year last year was an MVP candidate year still. His power isn't where it used to be. But considering he's going to be a much better offense this year with the addition of Nelson Cruz and Seth Smith. And I think they'll give him a lot more RBI and run opportunities and a lot more protection than ever before. He's 32 years old, so I don't know if he'll ever be the same kind of MVP top 5 player in the league that he used to be. He's still a great defender and a great all-around baseball player. I really think there's no player at second base who really comes close to a stardom in the league. And I mean, I'm a Yankees fan. I'm still bitter about him leaving us, but I mean, he's Robbie Cano. What more can we say?
Smooth as silk.
Yeah. He makes everything look so easy. That's the most incredible part about his game.
Yeah. So, our lists had quite a little bit of variation, which is surprising in my opinion.
We all had Brian Dozier at 4.
Yeah, Brian Dozier is the model of number 4 second baseman out there, so congrats to him. Any other second basemen you want to throw out there who have the potential to make their way into this list, or just anybody that you like at second base?
I think Scooter Jeanette is really underrated.
Yeah. Steve Gordon didn't get any mention.
Daniel Murphy.
Too.
Daniel Murphy.
But the dynamic he has. Daniel Murphy.
Surprised no one mentioned
again.
Daniel
Murphy
is probably the worst defensive.
I know. And like
it's more known his defensive struggles.
Ben Zobrist has to be up there. No one mentioned Ben Zobrist.
I consider him.
He's more
in a league of his in a position of his own.
He's just utility.
Super utility. Yeah. Joe Panic, just came up last year, but showed some promise in the playoffs. That's got to build some confidence.
I'd like to see Aaron Hill and Jason Kipnis return to being top second baseman in form.
That'd be fun.
Neil Walker too. I don't think anyone's saying.
No. That's another good one.
What about Javi Baez in a couple of years?
I don't think Javier Baez will play second base.
He could very well.
He's pretty big for that position. You don't see a lot of guys with his.
Hey, if he practices there and he can play the spot just fine. I mean, he was a middle infielder before, wasn't he? So, he's on the second base.
Exactly.
Also, Brandon Phillips gets a lot of love in previous years. Didn't have quite the season he desired last year, both physically and production-wise. So, not much you can do about that, but he's still up there in that conversation.
Wait, Joe Panic? I agree with you. You could see him making that step over a full season to being a top second baseman.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about it a little bit before, but playoff success can build a lot of confidence, especially in young players. You talk about Derek Jeter and the success he had at a very young age. You could be looking at a similar situation. I'm not saying he's Derek Jeter, but it's good for him. It's good for baseball, really, to see guys like this pop on the scene and produce without being, top of all these prospect charts for years and years before they make the big leagues.
I'm surprised no one mentioned Colton Wong at all.
Yeah. I guess.
I mean, I personally wouldn't say him, so I don't think he has the offensive potential that other people give him. But yeah, I'm still surprised that
he's a very average guy as well. I mean, I don't put him in that tier of top second base. I think he can get there, possibly.
Top 15, yeah. Top 10, maybe. Top 5 right now, no.
No. If he were, one of us would have had him, so.
Exactly.
That's not the case. Anyway, that'll do it for our top 5 at each position for second base. I'd say that was a pretty good list right there. We're gonna move on to teams of the week now with the Royals and Phillies. We'll go ahead and start with the Royals though, the American League champions, trying to bring back that title yet again with a little bit less ammunition. It's gonna be tough for them.
Exactly. And this team, even though they lost James Shields, I don't know if they're gonna be as good as they were down the stretch last year because they were just on fire. They were better than any team when they were on fire. But right now, there's so much excitement in that team from what they did last year. That bullpen is still amazing, but I don't know how they're gonna do what they did during the playoffs over 162 games. That rotation's good.
A big rotation hole that
they
today,
lost Shields, but they got like guys that could find a way to make up the innings in Chris Medlin if he stays healthy, Volquez, and they still have Danny Duffy, Guthrie obviously, Vargas and Ventura, but obviously they lost their big ace, their leader. I think their offense is gonna go back down to what it was. It's not going to be back in the playoffs. Like right now, I'm basing everything on their playoffs and how they did. Right, I don't think this team's going to be as good as they were last year. I'm sorry, Kansas City fans, but I don't think they're going to be as good. They're going to be in contention, but I have the White Sox over them.
Yeah. So you look at more what they lose a lot, and what they gain just doesn't seem to fill the void in quite the same way. They got Alex Rios to replace Nori Aoki.
Another Alex.
Aoki, I think got signed for like 10 million, like less money or something along those lines.
He got signed for 4 million or something.
Yeah, I think Rios signed for like 12 million, and Rios is not as good as a player as Aoki. So that
overall, yeah, I'd agree with that. Aoki has an amazing glove.
I'd rather have Aoki. Big time.
Better on base performer. And then there's like a Billy Butler deal where they had to give Morales, 2 years, $15.5 million. They could have just kept Billy Butler for 1 year, $12 million, I believe. And Butler is definitely a better hitter than Morales at this point. So that deal doesn't really seem to, add up. And I don't know, if you're betting your money on Volquez and Medlin to be consistent performers at this point in their careers, I don't know, that's a bet I'd be willing to take personally.
Right. I think a lot of their offense, which is what we kind of started talking about there, depends on their corner spots that, a few years ago were probably projected to be some of the best one of the best corner duos in baseball with Moustakas and Hosmer. They had so much potential. Hosmer never really figured it out with the bat, and Moustakas really didn't figure it out with the bat. Had spent a lot of time down in the minors to work things out. But again, found something right with his swing in the playoffs. Gotta build a little bit of confidence. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be easy for him to come back into the season and hit, 260, 20 home runs, as a given, but, if he's still at the point where his potential could make him a really good power hitting third baseman. And, those are the pieces that they're looking for with their young talent, is to kind of give it time, let it develop into something that could become solid. But I just don't like these other moves that they're making with these filler guys. They're downgrading, with Rios and Morales, and it's not the right direction to go.
I mean, at least they have some quality pitching prospects that should be up soon, and Kyle Zimmer, Miguel Almonte, Brandon Finnegan, who pitched a little bit in playoffs, and
He might be moved to the rotation because he was drafted as a starter.
so they don't have a terrible farm system, but as a team, currently, I just don't like their depth. I don't think they're one injury away from basically having a extremely weakened lineup. And while Jared Dyson and Terrence Gore are nice guys to have part time, I wouldn't really trust them starting every day in case of an injury. And their pitching rotation has no depth. If one guy has an injury, you're relying on Chris Medlin coming off of 2 Tommy John surgeries to give quality innings, which almost no one does. So I think, they had a lot of things go right last year, and also a lot of luck for a not very talented team, and I don't think they learned their lesson from that at all. I don't think the people they lost were huge blows in, Butler, Aoki, and Shields. I don't think any of those guys were irreplaceable by any means, but the ways they replaced them were, in my opinion, not good strat moves to make.
Shields in particular, I wanted to touch on, is a pretty big piece to lose, considering their model of pitching honestly was based on starting pitchers that are your 3, 4, 5 guys, get the ball off to the 6th inning, and then we can take it from there with our big 3. But James Shields took a lot of that load off when he started still. Even though, you considered big game James, he throws as many innings as anybody in the game. Well, more innings than most people do, so I think that's going to be a huge difference for their bullpen anyway. They got to find guys that can eat up more innings. You can't use the same pitchers out of the bullpen every single day.
I think they're going to over-rely on their bullpen a lot next.
Yeah. That's something that's ignored, is that these pitchers can't go every day. They're amazing pitchers,
Would you put them over the Tigers?
It's tough to say. I would.
That division is just a mess.
Yeah.
You just have 4 really okay teams that are going to be competing for the whole season to make it to the playoffs.
I mean, the teams that you see there, though, are still teams that play the game really hard. They have they're really quality players, above average players spread out throughout these teams that are fun to watch. And I don't think it'll be too much of a disappointing division because they, you talked about the Royals last year, really worked hard to get themselves, make a story out of themselves and get to where they did. And that's just the case with a lot of these teams. I think you're going to see the White Sox that really put a lot of effort into their off season to try to get better. And, the Twins, they're still hanging around in that bottom area, but they're getting ready to make a push. They've got some pieces together. They changed managers. They're gonna work to get up there, and it's not gonna be a blowout type situation like you expect it to be in a lot of leagues. Yeah.
They have Byron Buxton. They have Sano. The Twins have hope for the future, so the other teams have to be ready for a couple years down the line.
Yeah. I think in general, I'd just say not a disappointing division by any means, even though you don't have that dominant team, which is totally fine with me because that's just baseball. You're not going to have a perfect team. It's fun to watch teams that are as close to perfect as possible sometimes and watch those teams go head to head, but there's still a lot of really good baseball to watch in the AL Central, I think. But with that, I think we should go ahead and scoot on over to the NL East and talk about the Phillies that are also past their glory, as many people see it, with a lot of their core players. There are a lot of question marks there.
Can I just start with this team? Because
yeah, go for it.
This is one of the biggest messes in the major.
Exactly.
They took Ruben Alomar Jr. took so long to start breaking apart that 2008-9 NL championship core, it's worrisome. The fact that he never got fired throughout that entire period when they weren't any good, and that he refused to trade Utley, Rollins, Lee, Hamels, Howard at their top forms and trade value is really ridiculous. And thank God they finally traded Rollins this off season for, I don't know, a bag of peanuts. And just look at their depth chart. It's just
It's
sad.
awful. It's
I mean,
awful.
Brady Sizemore is predicted to start in left. I mean, Dominic Brown had one good year, and he really hasn't shown any proof that wasn't a fluke. Ryan Howard, I mean, hard to believe he was the fastest player ever to 100 home runs. I mean, he's just, it's really sad what injuries can do to a guy like that. Chase Utley, so a great second baseman. He was a guy we didn't mention in our top fives.
I had him in my top 5.
Oh, you did? Sorry, my bad. But he's a great player. It's really sad that he's stuck on such a team. He's definitely a guy in that hall of very good, and he's just kind of wasting away his past years. Ben Revere is like that. Is someone who's like the casual fan. I think, oh, he hits 300. He's good, but he's awful offensively because he doesn't do anything else. It's no power. It's one career major league home run. I think in like 5 seasons.
Oh, and it barely went out too.
I mean, Carlos Ruiz, he had PED issues.
That was one of the most confusing signings I've ever seen in my life.
Very
They gave him
much
a
so.
3-year deal at his age. I think it was after he was suspended even.
Yeah,
Was it?
I mean, their
Like,
top,
what?
their top.
They gave him $50 million, I think.
Their top prospects like Cody Ash, Michael Franco, Dylan, what's his name? Darren Roth, there you go, have all been disappointing, to be honest. There's some guy named Freddie Galvis.
Yeah,
It's
Freddie
shortstop.
Galvis.
I've never heard of him in my entire life. Apparently, he's played for them since 2012, but I never.
Yeah, he's been like pinch hitter type.
I mean,
business with him.
they're gonna be relying
He's been
on
around.
just a disgusting pitching staff after their top 2 guys. People coming off injuries or no names. I mean, there's ugly all around. They don't really have like that great talent pool coming in soon either. And it's just, it's all around stink.
Yeah, I think the first couple steps you gotta think that seem really obvious but haven't really come to fruition are trading Ryan Howard and Jonathan Papelbon. Probably a couple of the only Ryan Howard you really have to do.
I don't think Papelbon is tradable unless you.
Papelbon is tradable.
You have to eat up from that contract. I think Howard's untradeable.
Howard is almost untradeable.
No, he is untradeable.
No one wants
That's my
him.
opinion.
No one wants him.
I mean, you're gonna trade him for almost nothing, but
you would have to trade him for nothing and then eat the entire contract.
Basically.
I mean,
And
if
then
that's
just
the first
start
step,
over.
if that's the first step, then whatever. I don't know.
Okay.
There's got to be something done to show that they're trying to do something different.
Okay, I'm gonna start ranting about this team.
Okay, go for it.
If I were to give an award to the most depressing team in baseball, it would be the Philadelphia Phillies.
Wow, that's really sad.
I like Ben Revere. I love Utley. I love Hamels. Lee, yeah. But other than that, I don't even like anyone else on that team. Like as players, not, but, after their 102 win season in 2011, their team basically collapsed. They went from a good team of basically good veterans from their 2008 the World Series team World Series team, like as you said, Rudy, from that team, I thought they should have traded them all when they were worth something, but they're not worth anything right now. They basically, after that season, they went from good veterans to old and bad. And then the excitement of the rumors of the trades for Hamels, Howard, Lee, and that stuff for the Phillies fans. I know that the rumors are exciting, but until they actually do trade any of them, I can't find any glimmer of hope for this team. I'm not hating, but I'm judging by their moves over the last few years. They haven't even tried once to get younger, other than Rollins. So yeah, they're my most depressing team in baseball.
Yeah. So I guess it's my turn to shit on the Phillies just a little bit. I think they're one of the only teams that I see clearly as a last place team in their division.
That's a great point.
I mean, I'm trying to think of other teams around the league that really couldn't put it together over some of these other teams they're competing against. But even at the bottom of these, like, bottom 3 teams in these divisions, there's still some kind of balance. They're still fighting it out. There's some kind of positive energy that, you know, they could be a third best team in their division or something like that.
So you're saying,
see that with the
you
Phillies.
know, when you're signing Jeff Francoeur to a contract, you're in deep shit.
Hey, Jeff Francoeur. I remember him.
No, but like,
let's get Jason Day on this train too.
It's just, I mean, Cliff Lee, his career, I think it just sums up this team kind of.
It's confusing.
I mean, he started off as maybe he was actually always a top prospect, but he started off as a pitcher, barely passable as a major league starter. And then in 2008, he just went off into greatness after a really up and down career. And now he's been traded 3 different times, I think. He's been on the Mariners, Texas, Phillies since then. He's had insanely dominant 2011 when he had 238 strikeouts, a 2.4 ERA, a whip of 1.03. And he's slowly been kind of declining since then. He was still awesome in 2013.
That one year when he didn't get a win until like July.
Yeah, I think that was 12. And he was injured a lot last year. It was okay. I mean, he was decent. I just think he's just like, you know, he almost signed with the Yankees that off season before he rejoined the Phillies.
I'm kind of wondering if
the
Yankees are going, whew,
I don't know.
Those injury troubles.
He's still been really good, but
yeah.
It's just an interesting one to see how that could have changed the spectrum. Because I could definitely think of a couple of seasons where those, I don't know, it's just a great example of a what if, and I think I'm surprised he's not really in many trade rumors, because you could probably get him for cheaper than Hamels, and he's definitely a boost. I mean, I think he's better than James Shields maybe, so.
They're similar class pitchers.
Yeah, I mean,
just a little more injury trouble.
I would love him on my team. I mean, he's 37, is that right? Wow. So.
And he's still.
Is that right?
It sounds.
He is
as good as any other age.
Is that true? He's 36. Wow. Yeah, he's gonna be 37 during the season, so maybe that's not quite as nice as I thought, but still, I mean.
He's still owed so much.
It's just kind of, wow, how much is he owed?
Not a lot. It could be paid, but, his original contract in the next 2 years, he's owed 25 and 27 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's baseball for you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I feel like we've all just become super deflated just talking about this team, and it's kind of making me laugh a little bit, because you guys are just like, man, I just really don't like this team at all. And
you just don't see how much.
It's one of those dark times.
No offense to the Phillies front office, but I feel like us three.
No, you can't. It's too late to say no offense. I'm sorry.
No. I'm saying I feel like us three could have done a better job with that team than Ruben Amaro and the rest of that.
Let's just compare them to another last team that'll definitely be a last place team next year without a doubt. Colorado Rockies. I mean, or let's say the Minnesota Twins. Just both those teams.
I'd rather be
have they both have that kind of thing, but they have former or current star players are kind of withering away on last place teams and are in high paid deals. But those two teams have some great young players who are either about to enter the major leagues or have already proven themselves to be
right now
quality players. The Phillies have none of those.
Well, right now I don't see a direction like a clear direction in the Phillies or the Rockies, but I see the Twins that
the
are
Rockies at least have Nolan Arniano. And
yeah.
Arenado.
Arenado, I'm sorry, and Corey Dickerson, and the best shortstop in the game when healthy. So
LeMahieu's pretty darn good too. They have a decent lineup put together. They just need to get as many young arms as possible. Really, in my opinion.
Yeah, they have Eddie Butler. They have some great young arms. So
yeah, more young arms.
You can at least see what they're doing. I mean, has it worked? Maybe not, but there's an obvious plan.
Yeah, there's some kind of positive energy.
I feel like the Phillies are just every year they just go out there and okay, we're gonna see if we can win with this team. If not, okay, well, there's always next year. And then they just go out with that same team because they have not done one thing. And
I think that's a good summarizing statement right there of what we've been trying to say. Is that's pretty much what's not been working for them.
Yeah.
So I think it's time to stop depressing ourselves with the Phillies. Again, we're just talking out of our asses for the most part. It doesn't mean that we're actually genuinely angry with the Phillies or anything like that.
I'm genuinely angry at.
Okay, I can't speak for him. I can't speak for Rudy, but
I'm confused.
You're confused. Okay, that's fair enough too.
Thank you.
But that's gonna do it for this podcast. And short one.
Follow and comment feedback for us on Twitter. So yeah.
You want to say our Twitter?
At WPB Podcast, I believe.
Underscore podcast.
Underscore, yeah. At WPB underscore podcast.
And
our email is warandpeacebaseball@gmail.com. I'll throw that in there too.
That'll
be in the description.
We forgot the Kansas City Royals' greatest move of the offseason. This is probably the best move I've ever seen in the history of Major League Baseball. They signed Joe Blanton to a 1-year, $1 million
yes.
spring training invitation minor league contract.
They made it.
That's how you know a team is being. You should have no faith in a team.
We thought he's the Jeff Francoeur of pitchers.
Exactly. They used to have Jeff Francoeur. So
hey, that sums
up the past 30 years of Kansas City Royals baseball there.
That's an insult to Jeff Francoeur.
I don't know the man. I'm just saying. Okay, I don't know Joe Blanton either. Whatever.
I'd rather have Jeff Francoeur pitching for me than Joe Blanton.
Okay. We've already done our sign-out business with the email and Twitter. Again, that'll be in the description if you're confused by any of that. I'd like to also thank Farbode for taking us in with our intro today. Gave him a big shot here, and he took advantage of it.
I apologize for my coughing.
Kind of jacked up the Twitter plug at the end there, but we'll forgive you for that. We'll let you back on next week. Don't worry.
My bad.
Okay. So again, this is not a Sunday release, but we will hopefully shoot for those in the future. As always, questions much appreciated in any of these sources. So we'd like to hear it. Thank you for watching. We'll be back next week.
Adios.
Adios.